news out of Virginia, where hundreds of drivers have been stranded in their vehicles since yesterday afternoon. It's all happening on I-95 near the town of Fredericksburg. It's about 60 miles outside of D.C. More than a foot of snow fell in the region on Monday morning, but that seemed to have led to this: multiple accidents, and it also turned this major highway, this interstate, into a parking lot for miles and miles. We're told crews are working at this hour to get things moving once again, but this has been a dangerous situation and a real nightmare for hundreds of people. Traffic frozen in place for dozens of miles in the middle of winter. I want to bring in first Kristen Powers. She's a reporter with WJLA in Washington. Kristen, you've been kind of in the middle of this since early this morning as you were getting reports of people being stranded. What's happening right now?
Yeah, Kate, I was stuck in it since about 2 a.m. At this point, though, there's some people who have been stuck on I-95 for 21 hours and counting. So right now, I actually was just able to, I call it escape. VDOT was saying they're letting people off on the nearest exits closer to them, and that was true. I got off near Woodbridge. I'm going to turn around my camera just so you can see. And basically, what's happening on my end of what I'm seeing is people who got off, including a lot of truck drivers, they're now lining those side roads, trying to find a different route. What I also saw is trucks getting gas. I saw a lot of gas canisters on the sides of trucks there. So that's what's happening here. But back on I-95, I just checked in with a colleague who's closer to Stafford. Stafford is the area where the majority of the big backlog is happening, and people have been there for 21 hours and counting. He says the southbound lane is still at a standstill. And this is a gridlock that people have been in all night, really. And you can only imagine, some are running out of gas, so some are turning on and off their cars to conserve that. Some people have run out of gas, ran out of food, water, and then there's just the urge to need to go to the restroom. Some people, haven't been able to do that either. So it is quite a mess, and VDOT says they are responding, but it's definitely taking time, and a lot of people are frustrated here.
Understandably so. I mean, tell me more about what you are hearing from, or what the governor has said, and what the Department of Transportation is saying about this. It's one thing to say they're working to get things moving, but it's another thing entirely when people have been literally stranded in place for 21 hours of why it's not moving. Yeah,
we did reach out to Governor Ralph Northam numerous times, hadn't heard back from him, but a few hours ago, he did tweet out a statement saying that his office has been working with VDOT and the corresponding agencies in order to help get people out of this mess and guide them. He also said people who were stuck would be getting an alert on their phones, letting them know that help is on the way. A few of the people who are stranded, who I've been in contact with just from social media, they got that alert. I personally never got that alert when I was stuck. And he also had mentioned coming out and setting up some spaces for people to warm up. But I, again, got off, so I was not able to see that in action. We did ask, because a lot of people were asking us, and they were inquiring as they're just stuck sitting here, if the National Guard would be on hand to help out with this situation, help out in the efforts to get people off I-95, both northbound and southbound, because this is happening on both lanes, northbound moving a little more, southbound not moving at all. But the governor did not respond to that question when we did ask that.
We'll stay on top of that for sure. A lot of questions to be asked now. Kristen, thank you very much for your reporting. I really appreciate it from our affiliate, from local affiliate WJLA. Really appreciate it. Let's go now to CNN's Weather Center for a little bit more on what may have caused all of this mess. Chad Myers has been looking at this and he's joining us right now. Chad, the weather that brought this about, was this unexpected? How did it get so bad?
Well, the forecast was not unexpected. The forecast was really spot on. The computers did a very, very good job. What brought it on was that it was raining at midnight, then it got cold enough to snow, and then it snowed 2 to 3 inches per hour, and people weren't prepared to try to drive in that. One person slid off, somebody else had to slow down. You know, it's not a completely flat area there. Got to get up a hill, trucks getting down a hill. So there was a lot involved here, but you know, look at how much of the area picked up as much snow, and we only have one real area has been so impacted. Now, New Jersey, the southern part of New Jersey was impacted a lot too, don't get me wrong. But 14.6 inches of snow right where most of the problem occurred. People just couldn't get moving. Plows couldn't get through because the cars were in the way. It was 47 degrees at midnight. Then all of a sudden it was raining. Then all of a sudden it wasn't raining. It was changing over to snow. And then by 2 o'clock, it was snowing so hard people couldn't get out of the way. They couldn't get out of the snow that they were building. They were packing it down. This is snowball man snow. And so when you pack it down, it doesn't go out of the way. It doesn't just fly away like a powder. This was, and still is, a very big problem.
Chad, thanks so much for that. So for the hundreds of people stuck in this gridlock since Monday afternoon, this quickly turned from inconvenience to a nightmare. Joining me now on the phone are two people who both spent their nights stranded in their cars. Sean Stafford is with us, as well as Susan Phelan joining on the phone. Susan, I think you've just started moving. And for everyone out there, Susan and I have known each other for years from working on the Hill. I'm so sorry we're reconnecting this way, Susan, for goodness sake.
I know.
You've just started moving, but what are things looking like where you are now?
I am just north of Quantico now, and I'm very excited because the streets are wet, but they're not slushy, they're not icy. Traffic's moving at probably 50 miles an hour. I pulled off to the side to talk on the phone, but on the southbound side, it's absolute gridlock again. It's semi-truck after semi-truck after semi. It's just thousands and thousands not moving, not even rolling an inch.
What has the last 24, it's a little short of 24 hours for you, but what has the last day been like? I mean, you had to sleep in your car.
Yeah, there wasn't even a whole lot of sleep. The only benefit was I had a charger cord for my phone, I had heat, and I had cell connection and internet, which was a lot more than I had at the house that I left. I left the house in Fredericksburg to go to a different house in Alexandria where the power was on, but because I didn't have cell phone or internet connection at the house in Fredericksburg, I wasn't able to see this nightmare I was walking into until I was smack dab in the middle of it, and then it was too late.
Oh my gosh! I mean, you've been in the D.C. area for years. Have you seen anything like this before?
I never have. The times I've seen anything close, I've just been lucky enough to not be a part of it or sitting in the middle of it. But I'm only 50 miles from where I need to be, and it's completely frustrating to have. I mean, I got on the interstate last night at 8 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock in the morning now, so I could have walked home faster than this, pretty much.
I mean, sadly, that's true, except for the fact that it was, got into the 20s last night and would have been even more dangerous for you. Sean, let me bring.
Scary part.
Yeah, go ahead, Susan. What?
No, I was going to say that's the scary part. Is I'm healthy and I could park the car and walk out of this, but there are a lot of people out here, the elderly, the infirm, people who can't walk, people who need medicine. It's not like there are food trucks out here, and not even bathrooms. So it can turn into from a convenience into a crisis pretty quickly, and then from a crisis to a tragedy even faster.
I think that's the real concern right now is that as the hours tick on, we don't know the full extent of how people are really doing that are stuck in this, that are still stuck. Let me bring Sean in. Sean, Susan was just talking about her experience overnight. Can you tell us about your experience? I mean, you're trying to make it home to Long Island, New York.
Yeah, my drive was a bit longer. I started in Central Florida at 4 a.m. on Monday, and I got to 95 in Virginia about 5 o'clock after GPS tried to take me on some side roads that were then blocked by somewhere a trailer that couldn't get through a tiny snowy lane. And then I spent the night there with the puppy that I was bringing up from Florida and clothes that I was wearing in Florida. So it was, a little worrisome to have to keep the heat running and hopefully not run out of gas at the same time.
I mean, it did get down into the 20s overnight. I mean, were you scared, Sean?
No, I'd had over half a tank, and I've unfortunately, had jobs where I've had to sleep in a car overnight or work cold. So I wasn't too worried. I had enough water. Thankfully, I packed a bunch before I left. But, my wife was at home with our 2 kids. She was worried, so she didn't sleep at all. I mean, I didn't sleep very much either in the car, but not scared, but, frustrating and a little worrying at times, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remind folks, it's not like you are both stuck on a county back road that we all have traveled on many times. I mean, you're on I-95. How many emergency vehicles or even snowplows have you seen through this whole ordeal, Sean?
I saw a number of snowplows on the southbound side. They seemed to be replowing an area that looked pretty clean. I guess they were just trying to keep it clean, even though it had stopped snowing hours ago. The only other vehicle I saw was a kind of a pickup with kind of boxes on it, for tools and whatnot. They drove up to another car near me. I didn't see what they were doing. But other than that, I didn't see any emergency vehicles until this morning when a sheriff's car passed me. I did get the 2 alerts that were mentioned. Mm-hmm. But, those are just messages on my phone. They didn't materialize into anything that I could use besides, a loud noise scaring my dog for no reason. But on that, I did not see not really a lot of help out there, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to hear that you're doing okay, Sean, and that hopefully you'll be on your way. That's the thing we don't know, is how quickly everyone's actually going to be getting on their way. But thank you for coming on. Susan, thank you so much for jumping on the phone with me. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Anytime. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Get home safe, please.
Hello everyone, it's 7 o'clock. With Omicron cases surging across the country, multiple NHS trusts in England have declared major incidents because of staff shortages. And the Royal College of Nursing has called for the government to take a more cautious approach on restrictions. There are concerns about what could happen with children going back to school today and the return to work after the Christmas and New Year holiday. We're going to speak to the Vaccine Minister, Maggie Throop, the Shadow Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, as well as the NHS providers, Chris Hobson. Also, this morning, we'll chat to the chair of the government's Vaccine Advisory Committee and the director of the Oxford Vaccine Group, Professor Sir Andrew Pollard. Exactly a year since the AstraZeneca jab was first rolled out. Plus, and the music medic who went from DJing in his scrubs in the kitchen to opening London's New Year's Day parade and supporting Fatboy Slim. We'll speak to NHS doctor DJ Kishan Badalia at around 9:30. It's Tuesday, the 4th of January. As many as 6 NHS trusts declare critical incidents as nurse leaders tell the government the NHS can ill afford the level of staff shortages caused by Omicron. Back to school and back to masks. Secondary school pupils in England will wear face coverings in classrooms as they head back today.
I'm live here at Victoria Station in central London, where the Omicron variant is beginning to have a real impact on staffing levels for rail companies.
Plus, Decision Day, the civil lawsuit against Prince Andrew over allegations of sexual assault reaches a crucial moment in a New York court today.
6K. One remains, and that is Peter Wright.
Starting the new year in the right way, the Scot Peter Wright takes home the Darts World Championship title for the second time. Hello, good morning. Multiple NHS trusts across England have declared critical incidents because of staff shortages caused by the spread of the new Omicron variant. The Royal College of Nursing has written to the Health Secretary saying that the NHS can ill afford the current level of absences and urging a more cautious approach to restrictions. And the concerns go beyond the NHS, with more than 1 million Britons in self-isolation as children go back to work and school after the Christmas holidays. Well, let's talk to our correspondent, Tamara, who's here with me in the studio. A lot of pressure on the government, isn't there? We've the pressure from the NHS and the fact that these critical incidents have been declared at a number of trusts, plus all of the children going back to school in the next day or so.
Absolutely, and it feels that the pressure, unlike previous waves, is not because of huge numbers of patients going to hospital, although that is ticking up all the time, but because of the sheer pressure of staff shortages, doctors and nurses being off with COVID, people in social care being off with COVID so patients can't be discharged, and of course increasingly teachers being off with COVID, meaning children are being risk being sent home from schools as soon as they get back. We're now seeing hospitals declaring critical incidents. We understand there are around half a dozen who have declared them internally because of staff shortages, taking out 1 in 10, we think, across the board. But in some trusts, huge whole wards being taken out by people having COVID. And so that's where the pressure is coming from. Now, Boris Johnson made very clear yesterday when he appeared at a vaccine centre, he didn't expect to introduce more restrictions in England this week. The Cabinet are meeting tomorrow, and we expect they're going to continue with Plan B, which is working from home, mandatory masks on public transport and indoors, but not any more than that, not going as far as Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have. The Royal College of Nurses are now saying they should go further, but for so far the government are holding firm and saying that despite the pressure on hospitals, they hope things can continue as they are. We'll need to see whether all that mixing over Christmas, the impact of schools going back, makes a difference in the coming weeks.
OK, well, we'll put some of those points now to Maggie Throop. She is the Parliamentary Understate for Vaccine and Public Health Vaccines Minister. Good to talk to you today, Maggie Throop. Let's just start with getting some of the facts as how they've emerged over Christmas and New Year. How many Britons are currently in self-isolation?
I'm not sure of that actual figure, but I think what's shown over Christmas is that a lot of people have caught the disease. The Omicron variant is very transmissible. But what is good news, it doesn't seem to be resulting in severe disease as some of the other variants did. So that is really good news. And obviously people were taking precautions over Christmas, and I'd like to thank them for that.
You are the Minister for Public Health. Surely you should know how many people are in self-isolation.
Well, not everybody declares that they're self-isolating. I think that's one important thing, that it's something that they do because they've tested positive or they've been in contact with somebody who's tested positive. They don't have to report that in. But I think what has been so clear over recent weeks is that the vaccine is working, and that's the best way to stop the transmission and to stop hospitalisations and for our life to get back to normal.
But in terms of how we're going to manage the NHS in coming days, in terms of how we're going to manage schools and even workplaces, how can the government do that if it doesn't know how many people are self-isolating? When we know the latest figures about positive tests, for example, but, over 1 million positive tests, that means the people that they know, the people that they live with, will also have to self-isolate, doesn't it? So we could be looking at 4 or 5 million people potentially, or even more. You just don't know.
Well, I think the important thing is that we are looking at the data all the time with regards to hospitalisations, as you say, people who have actually tested positive, and also the number of people in the high dependency units as well. I think at the moment, if you look at people who have been hospitalised, then they are going in with less severe conditions than before, and the numbers that are in hospital beds is about half what it was a year ago. And that just shows the power of the vaccine. And my message today is, if you haven't come forward for your booster yet, come forward. If you haven't had your first dose of vaccine or delayed your second dose, there's always chance to come forward to get those life-saving vaccines. It's never too late, and that offer is always open.
Well, we'll come on to the NHS in a moment, but on the subject of vaccines, there are around 2 million booster appointments that have yet been taken. We know that a lot of booster centres were even open on Christmas Day. Is this that people are not bothering to get their booster, or have they got a booked appointment and they've then gone to a walk-in centre and got it separately? Why do you think there are so many appointments that are being missed for boosters?
I'm not sure about it's being missed, but we did open up the national booking service so people could come along and get a vaccine when they, when they booked the vaccine, or the walk-in centres as well. And they were hugely, hugely popular before Christmas. And so many people took up that offer. Over 34 million people.
There are 2 million vaccine appointments available this week. You're desperate for people to get vaccines. Why are there all these appointments available?
Well, it's quite right that we have those opportunities there for people to come forward to get their booster. It'd be wrong of us if we shut down the national booking service and just expected people to go into walk-ins. So it's quite right that offer is there for people to book their vaccine, whether it's their booster dose or, as I said, their first dose or second dose. That offer is always open, and it's quite right that across the country people can make their appointment and come forward for their vaccine.
But in terms of numbers, only 100,000 were boosted yesterday, so the numbers have really declined, haven't they?
I think we've just been through 2 weekends of bank holiday, and I think that's quite clear that numbers will change as we move forward. And what was really incredible is the number of people coming forward on Christmas Day, and even on the bank holidays, we had more people coming forward on the bank holidays than other bank holidays in the past. So people have really taken the vaccine programme to heart, and it's probably the most successful vaccine programme that the NHS has ever run, and probably one of the most successful across the whole world as well. And I want to thank everybody for playing their part, whether it's the NHS, the thousands, in fact millions of volunteers that have really helped made a difference, and people coming forward to get that life-saving vaccine in such a timely way.
Nevertheless, we're seeing critical incidents at a number of hospitals. How many exactly? We think about half a dozen NHS trusts have had critical incidents because of staff shortages. How many exactly, do you know?
I think the critical incidents are announced, and then they can be very short-term ones. And it's saying to the other trusts around, can we have some extra help? Can we have some mutual aid? Sometimes it's just a matter of hours that the critical incident's in place for. Other times it's longer. But it's actually reaching out to the wider NHS to say, we have got a problem in this particular area. And it is sometimes quite geographical as well, and for different reasons. It could be staff shortages. It could be other reasons. So it's quite right.
But do you know how many? Do you know how many we're at this morning, for example? I know, as you say, it is fast-moving, but, what are the latest figures from this morning?
Well, it is fast-moving. That's why it'd be wrong of me to actually say a number, because quite shortly there could be another one, or another trust could actually say, no, we're back on track now and we're OK. And it's a mechanism that's been put in place in the past, and I'm sure. Sorry to cut across you,
but is it wrong for you to say? I mean, we wouldn't want you to mislead, but it strikes me that perhaps you just don't know.
To be honest, I haven't had an update this morning. As we know, the Lincolnshire Hospital Trust declared one yesterday, and others have declared them in the past. And I think, as I've said, it can be very short-lived, and it can be longer as well. But it's for different reasons. Sometimes it's staff shortages, sometimes it's bed capacity. It's a complete mixture, and it's quite right.
You're the Minister for Vaccines and Public Health.
You're
the Minister for Vaccines and Public Health. The government has put you up to date to talk to us about COVID, to talk about the pressure on the NHS, and to reflect on the last 12 months of the AstraZeneca vaccine. But surely in that case, you should know how many NHS trusts are in critical measures at the moment, and indeed how many people in the UK are self-isolating. They seem to be really key bits of data that the public want to know. They want to know how many people are self-isolating. They want to know if their local hospital trust is in a critical condition or not. Does the government have a handle on this?
It definitely does, and obviously there's meetings on a daily basis with the key people within NHS England, and there'll be an update later on that situation. But as I've said, the best thing to do to help to protect the NHS and to make sure that other major infrastructure can continue is for people to come forward for their vaccines. As you say, it's actually just a year today since the Brian Pinker had that first Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine out of clinical trials, and that's a real good milestone, and it's an amazing achievement for British research and innovation that since then over 50 million of those doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine have been put into arms in the UK, and 2.5 billion doses across the world have been administered of that particular vaccine, and it's testament to the work that's gone on within the UK.
Absolutely, and nobody wants to take away from that. But equally, we also have to look at the current situations we have it now, not the situation over the last 12 months. And the Royal College of Nursing have called on Sajid Javid to work with counterparts across government for a more cautious approach in England. The RCN's also said it's concerned about the fact that there are different regulations in different parts of the UK nations. We're hearing about pressure on maternity departments. We know that some hospitals in the north are now not allowing visitors again. It does seem that the messaging that's coming from the health service is that the government needs to be doing more. Is the government listening? Is the government prepared to bring in more restrictions?
Look, as the Prime Minister said yesterday, that we have got Plan B, which is people working from home, the COVID pass, face coverings, and obviously the vaccine programme, which is so important. And
these are all important, but if they're not working, if we have 6 trusts in critical measures, then it suggests that the Plan B possibly isn't as effective as it might be, and that do we need to be looking at Plan C?
The Plan B is working. As you can see from the number of hospitalisations, it's far fewer than this time last year. And that's so important as well, that the vaccines are working, the measures for people to work from home are working, and people are being really compliant. It's really good news that people want to do their part to make sure that we get this virus under control. And the Prime Minister said that Plan B is working. There'll be a cabinet meeting today, and I don't see any reason why we need to change. It's important that we do follow the data. We've done that all along, and we'll continue to do that. And people are playing their part, and I want to thank them for that.
You're talking about the vaccines and how important they are. Why are we then selling off at a UK vaccine development centre near Oxford, the Vaccine Manufacturing and Innovation Centre? I mean, that doesn't seem like a great confidence boost, does it? That if we are selling off these facilities as soon as they appear successful?
Well, I wouldn't want to comment on the commercial decision, but I think what is important that we've got a good supply of vaccines. We've got the Pfizer, the Moderna, AstraZeneca, and others coming online as well. And it's important that people do come forward for those first vaccines and the second one as well. That offer is always open. And I think what was really encouraging as well was as the booster programme was turbocharged, more people came forward for their first dose as well. I think they've seen just how important it is. They've seen other people get the vaccine, and they've also sadly heard the people say that they've been seriously ill because they haven't had the vaccine. And to put that message out that vaccines are important, they do save people from getting serious disease, and they do save lives. Yeah,
despite that, we still have 6 trusts and critical incidents. Maggie Throop, Parliamentary Under Secretary of State for Vaccines and Public Health, thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks.
Well, let's take a look now at the latest COVID data. 157,758 new cases were reported in England and Scotland in the latest 24-hour period. 42 deaths were recorded in England, bringing the total number of deaths within 28 days of a positive test across the UK to 148,893. Well, those high numbers of Omicron cases is also impacting the railways, with staff forced to isolate and train services in turn being cancelled. Sky's Enda Brady joins me now from Victoria Station in central London. Hi, Enda. So you've managed to avoid COVID all over Christmas. You've not seen necessarily all your nearest and dearest. You're back to work today, and then you find out the trains don't work.
Yes, the train companies are really struggling, all because of COVID and the rise of the Omicron variant. So it's having a huge impact on staffing levels. The information I have is that staff absences running at 9.9% across the industry over the past 2 weeks of the festive season. So touching 10% of staff out. Omicron is having a massive impact, and the end result is train companies are having to collapse their timetables, run reduced schedules. There are some short-term cancellations in place as well. Now, we've spoken to the Rail Delivery Group, and they say to just bear with the train companies. They're doing their best. They're putting in place measures that are designed to give people some sort of, access and confidence in the system. They're urging people to get online so they can see what trains are being cancelled. But here at London Victoria, it is probably the quietest I've ever seen it in this week of the year. There's hardly anyone inside. Very few trains running. Southern Rail have stopped all of their services in and out of London Victoria until the 10th of January, and that is as a direct result of staff absences. So the Gatwick Express, for example, not running from here either. So a very tricky period for the rail industry. Staff absences now running at 9.9%.
Tricky indeed. Enda, thanks very much. Well, later in the programme, we're going to talk to the Shadow Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, about today's return to school. And at 8:05 this morning, we'll talk to the government's chair of the Vaccine Advisory Committee and director of the Oxford Vaccine Group, Professor Sir Andrew Pollard, as we mark 1 year since the AstraZeneca jab was first rolled out. And then ahead at 8:30, I'm going to talk to the Chief Executive of the NHS providers and also a COVID-19 intensive care unit anaesthetist about the current staffing pressures on the health service. Lawyers for Prince Andrew will today call on a judge in the US to throw out the sexual assault case he's facing. The case has been brought by Virginia Giuffre, and a legal document made public yesterday shows that she entered into a settlement agreement with Jeffrey Epstein, which the Duke of York's lawyers claim also covers him. It's up to the judge to decide whether he should be immune from liability. Sky's Joe Pike reports now from New York.
Among Prince Andrew's close friends, a child sex trafficker and a prolific paedophile. The Duke of York travelled on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet, and Mr Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were invited to Balmoral and Windsor Castle. But it's the accusation Prince Andrew sexually assaulted Virginia Giuffre 3 times when she was 17 years old that is at the heart of this case. He denies wrongdoing.
He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it. Thank you.
The secret document shows Jeffrey Epstein paid Virginia Giuffre $500,000 in a 2009 settlement. There is no mention of Prince Andrew. However, it includes a clause which says Virginia Giuffre does release, acquit, satisfy and discharge any other potential defendants from all manner of action. Now, this is the clause which Prince Andrew's lawyers are likely to argue means the whole case should now be thrown out. Virginia Giuffre's team say this document is irrelevant, and the fact that the prince isn't even mentioned means he's not covered by it. Ultimately, it's up to the judge to decide if this case should go ahead. But if it does, expect a full civil trial in the autumn. In civil cases, parties usually settle before that happens. But some legal experts think one of the parties in this case may be loath to do that.
Virginia is already a multimillionaire because she was able to settle against Epstein's estate. So there's less pressure on her to take a settlement and make the case disappear. She's not as needy as she might have been several years ago. In that sense, this is the sort of case where Virginia herself and her lawyers might say to Prince Andrew, we don't care how much you pay. We're not settling. We want the truth to be told. We want to have a trial.
The next hearing in this case takes place later today, tarnishing the start of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee year and raising further questions about the judgment of the man said to be her favourite son. Joe Pike, Sky News, New York.
Meanwhile, one of America's most high-profile investigators is demanding that Donald Trump and his two eldest children give evidence in an investigation into his business empire. New York's Attorney General issued the subpoena. The former president's lawyer called it a political witch hunt. The Trump family has asked the court to stop the action. Our US correspondent Greg Milam has more.
It's certainly the most significant moment in an investigation that's gone on for 3 years now. This subpoena for Donald Trump and two of his children by the Attorney General would ask for them to be interviewed under oath. And, of course, Donald Jr. and Ivanka were key to the running of the Trump organisation, particularly when their father was in the White House. The indication is they won't comply with this subpoena, so the chance they could be held in contempt of court. So there's a long way to go in this. The central allegation that this investigation is looking at is this claim that the Trump organisation would inflate the value of its properties and its assets when it was trying to borrow money against them, and then deflate those values when they were filling in the tax return. It is a civil case, lots of documents handed over already. We know there's been this battle over Donald Trump's personal tax return. That's part of it as well. There is a criminal case too. The Trump organisation has denied these allegations. In fact, they filed a lawsuit to stop this investigation from going ahead. They say it's politically motivated. They've called it a witch hunt, which of course is familiar because aside from the business, there's all the politics. And this is the week when America will look back on January the 6th last year and that attack on Congress, and Donald Trump planning to hold a news conference on the anniversary on Thursday to put his side once again of that story. So a new year, but familiar old themes for Donald Trump.
Let's take a look at some of the other stories making the news this morning. And the founder of a failed Silicon Valley startup that promised to revolutionise healthcare has been found guilty of fraud in California. Prosecutors argued that Theranos' founder, Elizabeth Holmes, lied to investors by claiming that her company's technology could detect diseases from just a few drops of blood. Well, the former billionaire denied the charges, but now faces up to 80 years in prison. The Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro, has been admitted to hospital with what is thought to be an intestinal obstruction, which could require surgery, according to his medical team. The hospital said his condition is improving. The Brazilian's been hospitalised several times for similar problems since being stabbed in the abdomen during a campaign rally in 2018. Charities are calling on the government to open more safe routes to people seeking asylum in the UK after data showed the number of people making dangerous journeys across the Channel in flimsy inflatable boats trebled last year. More than 28,300 people were known to have crossed the Channel in 2021, according to the Press Association news agency. Private parking companies are handing out an average of more than 22,000 tickets every day to drivers. Analysis of government data shows 4 million tickets were issued to British motorists between April and September, despite a reduction in cars on the road due to the pandemic. And it's been a festive 3 weeks at the World Darts Championships. Fans have turned up at Alexandra Palace in London in fancy dress and good voice, ready to party. And it all came to a noisy and exciting climax last night as Peter Wright took home the title in a thrilling final against Michael Smith. Sky's Kamali Melbourne reports.
One remains, and that is Peter Wright. Peter Wright is the champion of the world for the second time.
This is the moment that Peter Wright claimed glory in front of hundreds of fanatical fans at the new home of darts, Alexandra Palace in London. The world number 2, known to his fans as Snakebite, bested his rival bully boy Michael Smith to claim his second title.
It's not about me, it's about the future of darts, and this man, he let me in today. I just love him bits, and I feel so bad because I know as soon as he gets a major, he will just trounce everybody, and you will.
The 51-year-old Scotsman with the mohawk and snake tattoo joins Phil Taylor, John Part, Adrian Lewis, Gary Anderson and Michael Van Gerwen as a multiple title holder. An emotional end to 3 weeks of competition. Time now for wife Joanne, the new trophy and the £500,000 prize money.
We're going to be speaking to Peter Wright before the end of the show, hopefully, so stay tuned for that. Right, let's get a quick look at the weather.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
A stiff northerly wind will make it cold today. It's mostly clear, dry and cold now with icy stretches in the north, but there are wintry showers near north-facing coasts. Southern England, more general patchy rain. Cloud and rain, mostly clear from the northwest during the morning.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Now, if you think it's chilly out there, take a look at this. A winter storm brought heavy snow to Washington, D.C., affecting everyone from the president to also some pandas, apparently. Show us the pandas. There they are. Yeah, love a panda. It's almost camouflaged if it stands very still next to the tree. Around 10 inches of snow was forecast, which closed schools, government offices and even grounded the president's helicopter as he left Air Force One, returning to Washington after a week in Delaware. But some appeared to enjoy the weather. These pandas are at the Smithsonian Zoo, and they did seem quite happy, don't they, wandering across the frozen ground. Sure, they've still got some bamboo. Now, coming up, the latest as schools across the country head back to the classroom with new COVID-19 measures in place. Welcome back. You're watching Sky News Breakfast. Well, we're talking a lot about Omicron and schools and the health service this morning. Let's bring in Tamara Cohen, our political correspondent, who's with me now. We spoke to the vaccines minister, one of the vaccines ministers, earlier in the programme. Wasn't able to give us a lot of answers about the numbers of infection across the UK.
That's right. So we know that there are well over 100,000 positive tests a day at the moment, but that's been a bit disrupted over Christmas with some parts of the UK not reporting them, and they could, of course, be far higher with people not getting tested. The vaccines minister couldn't tell us how many people might be in isolation. Of course, it looks like it's probably over 1 million if everybody who's got it is in isolation for at least 7 days. Their contacts no longer need to isolate unless they're unvaccinated, in which case they do. So how high it is, she couldn't tell us. The government are working on the basis of potentially a fifth or a quarter of staff being off with COVID in the coming weeks when they look at the NHS and schools. But this is what Maggie Throop told us earlier.
I'm not sure of that actual figure, but I think what's shown over Christmas is that a lot of people have caught the disease. The Omicron variant is very transmissible. But what is good news, it doesn't seem to be resulting in severe disease as some of the other variants did.
Do you know how many we're at this morning, for example? I know, as you say, it is fast moving, but, what are the latest figures from this morning?
Well, it is fast-moving. That's why it'd be wrong of me to actually say a number, because quite shortly there could be another one, or another trust could actually say, no, we're back on track now and we're OK. And it's a mechanism that's been put in place in the past. And I'm sure
sorry to cut across you, but is it wrong for you to say? I mean, we wouldn't want you to mislead, but it strikes me that perhaps you just don't know.
To be honest, I haven't had an update this morning. As we know, the Lincolnshire Hospital Trust declared one yesterday, and others have declared them in the past. And I think, as I've said, it can be very short-lived.
Well, of course, many questions for the education world as well. The Joint General Secretary of the National Education Union, Mary Bastard, joins me now. In terms of the advice that teachers and schools have been given from the government, is it clear enough?
Well, it is clear. The advice is clear. The problem is it was issued 3 days ago, and it's I simply don't understand why advice which schools have to adopt needs to be issued so late. It's yet another case of the government just being last minute about guidance, which it could easily have issued earlier to give schools more time to prepare. But the advice is clear. Children will, if you're a secondary school pupil, you'll be taking 2 lateral flow tests this week. You will be required to wear masks in the corridors and in classrooms. And so that advice is clear. We would also say that the vaccination rate for secondary pupils is less than half pupils have had their first dose. And that is another important measure in order to keep COVID suppression as low as possible, the suppression of the transmission of the virus as low as possible in schools.
How well equipped are schools to deal with absences? We don't know what level absences may be, but what impact do you think it could have?
Well, I think it could be significant. In December, that's the latest month for which we have figures, 8% of education staff were absent because of COVID. And that was with a mixture of Delta and Omicron, so a less potent mix for transmission. I think that with Omicron, with the fact, particularly in primary schools, where in December, primary pupils were the age group which had the highest rates of infection, I think that that there is a possibility that staff will become sick, and education staff are more likely than any other profession to catch the virus. 37%, according to the Office for National Statistics, more likely to catch COVID. So if they do that and they have to be at home, then there will be the issue about who will be taking classes. And that's a real problem, because we know the one thing that we want to happen is for schools to be open and children and young people to be educated in school, because that's the best place for them. So it is a shame that the government hasn't done more to ensure that that is going to happen.
Are schools facing pushback from pupils over masks? I mean, I'm imagining a lot of teenagers will have spent a large part of the last couple of weeks not wearing a mask in daily life, and they're now having to go back to wearing them day in, day out. Are there a lot of arguments in classrooms about these things?
I'm not hearing that. I mean, they're used to wearing them. Secondary school pupils are used to wearing them in corridors and in, communal places. In Wales and Scotland, they've never stopped wearing masks throughout the day. So, no, I'm not hearing that there's widespread revolt against that. I think that most teenagers are sensible, are quite resilient, and understand that this is a measure that is necessary. The mental health effects of not being in school are far greater than wearing a mask. If wearing a mask is a price to pay for staying in school, continuing to be educated, continuing to be learning with your friends, continuing to socialise, continuing to have a place to go. If you've got free school meals, continue to get that free school meal. If you've got worries and troubles in your life, having the school as a place where you've got people to talk to who will be able to help you. All those things, all the benefits of being in school and schools remaining open are far greater than the disadvantage of wearing a mask. The two just don't compute.
OK, Dr Mary Bowsett, the Joint General Secretary of the National Education Union, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, let's cross to our correspondent, Becky Cottrell, who is at a secondary school in Sheffield for us. Is she there?
Yeah,
hope so. I can hear her. I just can't see her. Becky, tell us what they're getting up to there. What are they doing in terms of pre-testing for the kids coming back?
Yeah, today obviously is the day they test children before they return to the classroom tomorrow. There's around 1,000 children that need to be tested today. I don't know if you can see me yet or just hear me, but there are testing bays set up ready for that. It takes about an hour to work through each year group, and that's why they need all day to do it. Now, the head teacher told me that they were prepared for this. They knew before they broke up for Christmas that they would have to test on site today, and they've got a mixture of staff and then specially trained testers that have been brought in to help. He also told me that supply of tests is pretty good. Obviously, there have been national shortages of tests, but at this school, they've got enough not only to do the tests on site today, but then to give kids those tests to take home. Obviously, children now have to do tests twice weekly at home. Another new thing nationally today, as I'm sure you've been talking about, is the wearing of masks in the classroom for secondary school students. Now, here they'd already been doing that. That was something that was brought in across the Sheffield region before Christmas, so children know what they're in for, and those measures will be in place until at least the 26th of January. Now, another thing that I asked the head teacher about is staff shortages. He said, thankfully, they've only had a couple of support staff call in sick, saying they have to isolate. But obviously, the concern here and for countries across the country is that as the children return, cases could rise, and that could take out a lot of teachers. Now, this school is ready and willing to merge classes if necessary, but I asked the head teacher about the idea of bringing in supply staff or getting retired teachers to return, and he said, look, it's really hard to get hold of supply staff at the moment, and the idea of retired teachers returning just isn't that realistic.
OK, Becky, thanks very much. Glad that we could see you eventually. And let's talk now to a head teacher of a school in Rotherham to see how that all fits in with what his experience is. Pepe Diazio, lovely to talk to you today, Mr Diazio. How do you feel about schools coming back today and the kids coming back? Do you feel optimistic or are you a bit worried?
I think as a head teacher, we're born to be optimistic. I think the phrase that we're using at the moment is that we are hoping for the best and planning for the worst. So the unknowns, as people have said earlier in your show, are around the number of cases that we'll meet this morning. And what we've got to do is make sure that we're ready with a number of different plans to make sure that staff are prepared to help cover other classes that may not have their colleagues in them so that we can keep students in their classes this next term.
What's your latest knowledge about teachers? Do you have a clear idea of how many teachers are coming in and how many can't?
Well, I have to say it's better than it was in November and December. We've had just 2 colleagues ring in this morning who tested positively last night. And so we're aware that they won't be in for the next 7 days at least. We were facing absences of around 9 or 10% in December. And so that was definitely something that we struggled with. We had colleagues who were taking multiple classes together in large areas, such as the main hall. What we're hoping for over the next few weeks is that we don't see those sort of numbers away. However, what we do know is that this is something that's beyond our control at the moment. That's really positive, isn't it? If it has really seemed to have got better for you, at least up to now. I don't want to jinx things. You were talking about teaching children in larger groups. Is that really a workable solution in the long term? Because some people have suggested, the Department for Education has suggested that can work, but other people have said it can become a bit Mad Max-like if you're teaching huge numbers of teenagers altogether. Yeah, I don't think it's a long-term solution, but I think it's a better solution than moving to virtual learning and remote learning. I think for a short-term basis, if you can have a specialist science teacher who's a senior and experienced teacher taking perhaps 2 or 3 groups of up to 40 or 50 students in a larger space, it does mean you've got to adapt your curriculum. But one of the plans that we have in place is to do just those adaptations to make sure that we can cover for those eventualities should they occur. And what about things like masks, access to masks and access to these ventilation units that the government was talking about at the weekend? Are you happy that you've got all the equipment you need? I wouldn't say that we're happy. I understand that there are 7,000 air purifying units that are available. As I understand it, there are something like over 300,000 classrooms across the country that would benefit from having those units. I'm sure that over the coming weeks, I'm sat here today in an office with my windows open. The weather's quite pleasant here in Yorkshire today. However, in the coming weeks, it's going to get colder. And I know that our staff and our students would benefit from having better air purifying units, and we're going to need more than the 7,000 that have been initially ordered from the DfE. And in terms of mask wearing, Mary Bousted, we just spoke to from National Education Union, said she'd not heard anything about teenagers objecting to wearing masks in schools. What's been your experience? Have they all been pretty compliant? Yeah, we've had maths all through the autumn term. The addition today as we come back is that they'll be wearing of masks during the classroom sessions as well. It's not great for learning, particularly in language lessons, for example, where students need to speak more often. It certainly isn't great for teachers who need to have their voices and faces seen a lot as part of their teaching of a lesson. But it's one of those things that I think the whole country is becoming used to, and it's just part of the daily life in schools at the moment, really. Does it have any impact on behaviour? Are they more mischievous when they're able to hide behind a mask, perhaps? Or again, is that not really borne out? Well, no, I do think it is. We read so much from people's faces, and so that is an integral part of being a teacher. And it is more difficult to understand what a student is thinking, or anyone is thinking with a mask on. But what I will say is that students understand the importance of keeping each other safe. Many of them have got family and relatives who are shielding at home. And what we've seen is that students really want to help support the community and make sure that they help keep our community safe. And I suppose in terms of being at school and being with their friends, it's in their interests as well, isn't it, for this to work for everybody? Absolutely. I mean, if you talk to our students, that they will say that they hated lockdown, that the biggest part of lockdown for them and COVID was missing their friends and not having the opportunity to socialise. The school days are the best days of our lives, and our students want to make sure that they're here and enjoying school. And part of that will be the return to school today. We're testing over 600 students today, and there'll be our senior students in school, and the younger students will return over the next couple of days. And I know that many of them can't wait to be back here, and we'll love seeing them again.
And in terms of what more the government could be doing, if the government ministers were watching on at the moment and you have a wish list, what would you ask them to do to make the next few weeks smooth for you and your pupils?
Well, we've been promised a review at the end of the month around mask wearing, and what I would ask is that we'd welcome earlier notification of any plans. To hear these plans in the Sunday papers as we did this weekend certainly wasn't something we'd welcome, and I think all head teachers would prefer to have more lead-in time so that they can plan for what's happening over the coming weeks. What the government are doing right now, with the exception of the extra air purifying units, is certainly a welcome step forward compared to where we were last year.
Pepe Diazio, head teacher at the Wales High School in Rotherham. Lovely to talk to you this morning. Best of luck getting them all back today. Hope all those shoes have been shined and those curls and fringes tamed. Thanks a lot, including yourself. Now, let's take a look at this story. 15 minutes was all it took for these twins in California to be born in different years. Alfredo was delivered on New Year's Eve at 11:45, while his sister Aylin was born at midnight on New Year's Day. Do we know which was which? Aylin weighed 5 pounds 14 ounces. Her big brother, Alfredo, maybe he's the one on the left, weighed 6 pounds 1 ounce. I'm just guessing, though, who knows. Lovely story, though. Still to come on Sky News Breakfast. Lawyers for Prince Andrew will today call on a US judge to throw out the sexual assault case against him. We'll have the very latest. Prince Andrew's lawyers will today call on a US judge to throw out the sexual assault case brought against him by Virginia Giuffre. Well, a legal document made public yesterday shows that Ms Giuffre entered into a settlement agreement with Jeffrey Epstein. The Prince's lawyers claim that it covers the Duke of York too. Well, with me now is the legal commentator Joshua Rosenberg. And Joshua, lovely to talk to you this morning. Happy New Year. This settlement dates back to 2009, doesn't it? And it basically says that she must not take further legal action. But the big question is, of course, does this include Prince Andrew? What are your thoughts today?
That's the question for the judge today, isn't it? Now, this deal worth $500,000 signed in 2009, in that Virginia Giuffre said that she promised to release, acquit, satisfy and forever discharge not just Jeffrey Epstein, but any other person or entity who could have been included as a potential defendant from all actions, claims, variances, trespasses, damages, judgments, executions, demands whatsoever in law and equity. And this is the best bit, from the beginning of the world to the day of this release, which was in 2009. So this was a very, very broad document. Now, does it apply to Prince Andrew? Was he a potential defendant? Well, he is a defendant now, so presumably he was covered by Exhibit A, this document that you're looking at now. On the other hand, he wasn't referred to by name in the agreement. His lawyers say he was a third-party beneficiary. And normally, third parties can't enforce the terms of a contract if they receive only incidental benefits from it, but he's entitled to do so if he's an intended third-party benefit. It didn't refer to him by name. That's what's pointed out by Virginia Giuffre's lawyers. But on the other hand, her original claim against Epstein said that she was required to be sexually exploited by Epstein's adult male peers, including royalty. So it's on that basis that the Prince's lawyers argue that he's covered by this agreement.
So if the judge decides that he is covered by this agreement, is that the end for Ms Giuffre, that there is no more potential of legal action?
I'm sure there's a possibility... Yes, I'm sure there's always an appeal, isn't there, and another chance. But yes, it's an important point. Of course, on the other hand, if that argument is thrown out, well, the Duke of York has got other arguments. He says it can't be heard in New York because she lives in Australia. She was above the age of consent under New York law at the time. Even the legislation under which she was allowed to bring the claim against him, it temporarily reopened the statute of limitations, extended the time limit. They say that's unconstitutional. So there are lots of arguments on both sides as to whether the claim should be allowed to go to a hearing later this year if it gets that far, or should be thrown out straight away.
If the hearing were to be allowed to go ahead, and it's scheduled for sort of September, possibly at the earliest, would Prince Andrew have to attend?
If the hearing goes ahead, then it would be difficult for him to argue his case unless he was willing to give evidence. But I've always thought that this case would settle at some point, and I regard these arguments that we're hearing today and we'll be hearing in the future as skirmishes to enable the two sides to be able to assess and assert their relative strengths. This is a civil case. Any civil case can be settled. The original case that was brought against Jeffrey Epstein was settled. The question is obviously how much money, and that depends on the strengths of the two sides and how much they both want to settle. So it would be interesting to see whether there is going to be a hearing later this year, but obviously if there isn't a deal, then that's what will happen.
And in terms of this civil case, how affected will it have been by the judgment and the verdict in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, which happened just after Christmas?
It doesn't have a direct impact on this, does it? But on the other hand, it does show, you've seen the famous photograph, obviously, of the Duke of York, of Virginia Giuffre, and of Ghislaine Maxwell together at her flat in London. And the fact that she is now a convicted defendant, that's the photograph there, the convicted defendant and is facing a long prison sentence, doesn't really help his position, does it? But it doesn't directly affect the case against him. He was referred to in passing in the criminal proceedings against Ghislaine Maxwell, but he wasn't directly involved in it. And neither, of course, was Virginia Giuffre. She was not called to give evidence, which may or may not be seen as significant.
Nonetheless, this is all extremely damaging for the Prince's reputation, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, it doesn't look very attractive, does it, to take advantage of a deal when Prince Andrew wasn't directly involved. He certainly didn't contribute to the $500,000 that Epstein paid Giuffre. So it's taking advantage, perhaps, of a deal that his then friend, no longer obviously a friend even before he killed himself, that his then friend reached. So in terms of publicity, in terms of his reputation, it doesn't do much for him. But obviously, if you're fighting a legal battle, you use all the tools at your disposal.
Indeed. Joshua Rosenberg, good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Let's get a quick look at the weather.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, a stiff northerly wind will make it feel really cold today. It's mostly clear, dry and cold now, with icy stretches in the north, but there are wintry showers near north-facing coasts. Southern England has more general patchy rain. Cloud and rain there will mostly clear from the northwest during the morning, but will linger over southeast England. Elsewhere, mostly dry and sunny.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Still to come at the top of the hour on Sky News Breakfast. With more than 1 million Britons in self-isolation and 6 NHS trusts declaring critical incidents, we'll have more on the impact of Omicron.
So appreciative of Seven, not only his play, but his leadership, and just a tough night, man, but awesome night.
You walked outside and felt the energy and saw all the 7 jerseys, all the 7 signs, and
It was truly an atmosphere that I've never felt here before.
Did you get the game ball?
I have no, he didn't, coach didn't like make an announcement or anything, but I'm sure it'll be in my locker.
Would that be your favorite game ball?
Probably. It's going to be up there. If not, it's special.
Tuesday edition of PFTPM, the morning after Big Ben's farewell to Heinz Field. Slightly different scene than last year with the final home game against the Browns in the playoffs. Ben and Marquise Pouncey sitting alone on the bench. This time it's kind of a victory lap for Ben Roethlisberger. He didn't do the whole lower bowl at Heinz Field, but got to walk off as a winner, 26-14 over the Cleveland Browns. Playoff hopes still alive.
Still alive. This is PFT Live, by the way, not PFTPM. Wake your butt up on a
Did I say PFTPM?
Oh, yes, you did.
Did I really?
Yes, you did.
Jeez.
Yep, wake up. Let's go.
Wow.
Get your butt going. You're having a Baker
PFT
Mayfield performance here early on. Come on, let's go.
I've thrown 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
I've completed 24 of 46 passes for 123 yards. You know, history was set last night, as Pete, who is quick to rain on the Big Ben parade, pointed out. History was made last night. The fewest yards ever gained by a quarterback with 45 or more attempts in a game. Ben Roethlisberger, 123 yards on 46 attempts. That's not a good night throwing the ball, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they won.
They
beat the Browns.
It worked.
It's amazing. It was amazing to see the outpouring, whether it was it felt like a 10-hour Super Bowl pregame on ESPN with all the Ben Roethlisberger adulation, and the fans stayed until the very end. And, he was there 18 years, and he won 2 Super Bowls. Yes, it's been a while since the last one. And, yes, there were some unfortunate things that happened that everyone has apparently forgotten about back in 2010 or thereabouts when they wanted to run him out of town, literally. I remember listening to talk radio in Pittsburgh 2010 when it was just one person after another calling in, sharing their grievances about Big Ben. He cut in line at a Subway restaurant or whatever it was. I mean, it was any little thing they could come up with. They were so upset with him after he got suspended for his misadventures in Milledgeville, Georgia.
Right.
That's all gone now. It never happened. Never happened. It's amazing. It's an amazing act of redemption. And now he walks off into the sunset and still has a chance to get to a Super Bowl and literally walk off into the sunset with a trophy under his arm, although I would put the odds at that as very slim, especially since I don't think they get into the playoffs, because the Jaguars have to beat the Colts for them to get to the playoffs, and they have to beat the Ravens in Baltimore. I'll be stunned if the Jaguars beat the Colts, but crazier things have happened this week, Chris, so I can't rule out anything at this point.
It's a crazy year. I mean, altogether, you're right. This week, this year, whatever, this month, we see crazy victories all the time. We saw the Jets really controlling a football game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Super Bowl champions, just this past weekend. So you're right. Anything's possible. There's no doubt. But I mean, hey, Pittsburgh, that was cool to see last night. That really was. I mean, first off, I want to give credit to the whole football team. I mean, just again, the way to get your butt whooped the way they did against the Kansas City Chiefs, I think the first thing that jumped out to me last night, their energy, their emotion, their toughness. I know you picked them to win the game. Pasta and meatballs, correct, check mark. I mean, but you're right, and that's to me like Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, you say what you want. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers just always come ready to fight for the most part. Or whenever you think they're dead, they show you a little life. I think between that, the energy in the stadium provided by, people knowing that it was Big Ben's last game, the Steelers played an emotional, tougher football game from the get-go, and I was glad to see Big Ben go out a winner. I really was. He's a legend. Yeah, you said it's been some rocky roads there, but for the most part, come on, man, what he's done in Pittsburgh, it's all-time great status. It really is. The fact that they're in it every year, they went to 3 Super Bowls. You're right, it's been a while, but oh my gosh, I mean, every year in the conversation for playoffs, in the playoffs, certainly years sprinkled in with, are they the best team in the AFC? Just a phenomenal career by Big Ben, and cool to see him get sent off in that way.
What's amazing for all their struggles this year, they haven't lost at home.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Since week 3 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they had that unfortunate tie against the Lions, which ultimately could be the thing that keeps them out of the postseason. But they have won every other home game since then. The problem is they haven't won on the road since Halloween at Cleveland.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to win on the road at Baltimore. And maybe that's a tougher task than the other side of it. I don't know. But because, look, the Jaguars, as Pete pointed out, they've beaten the Colts six straight times in Jacksonville. Now, this Jaguars team just gave up 50 points to the Patriots. This Jaguars team has shown no life since Urban Meyer was fired. Usually there's some sort of a lift that you get after the coach is fired because guys want to play well for the interim coach because they realize a new guy who comes in may make a lot of changes, and those changes may include me. So let's go out and win for this guy because maybe we can keep him as our coach and everything stays the same. It never happened for the Jaguars this year. But they get the chance to play ultimate spoilers. And apparently there are fans who are planning to show up in clown paint or clown outfits because this is the thing they've been doing to put pressure on Shad Khan after the decision was made and leaked to NFL media that they're bringing back Trent Baalke as the GM. So I don't know what factor that's going to have. I don't know how many clowns are going to be in the uniform or in the stadiums rather on Sunday in Jacksonville, but that becomes a critical game now.
Critical.
If the Jaguars can beat the Colts and the Steelers can beat the Ravens, the Steelers are in the playoffs, unless the Chargers and Raiders tie. This is the ultimate chaos scenario. Steelers beat Ravens, Jaguars beat Colts. If the Chargers and Raiders tie, both the Chargers and Raiders are in and the Steelers are out, which would just be perfect if it happens. And you have to wonder whether the two teams are tempted to engineer a tie. I'll tell you what, if the NFL ever caught wind of something like that, I could see the commissioner issuing the unprecedented double forfeit and knocking them both out of the playoffs. But if it would just naturally happen that they would tie, they'd both be in and the Steelers would be out. And the Colts would also obviously be out because they would have lost to the Jaguars. So it's an amazing potential outcome if it gets to that on Sunday night.
No, it definitely is. I mean, it seems far-fetched, but in a year where, again, we've seen that there's no great team in the NFL, there's inconsistencies every week, who the hell knows? We could be sitting here Sunday night going, man, there's a chance. Holy cow. I certainly don't expect the Jags to beat the Colts. And, of course, like you said, it's going to be tough sledding for the Steelers just to go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens as is. But we'll see where it goes. Either way, I didn't expect them to win last night. I didn't. But I knew they were going to win about 3 minutes into the football game just because you could tell the energy and one team was, like, ready to go, fired up, tough as hell. I mean, to me, it's like Big Ben's career. It started off 2004. Oh, man, is he ready to play? I don't know. And, man, what did he do? Like, won his first 11 starts as a starter, as a rookie. That was unbelievable. Last night, Cleveland team that is more talented coming into town. You think, oh, man, all right, they got knocked out of the playoffs, but still, maybe there's no pressure. They'll let it fly. They want to end their season on a good note. No. Big Ben, the Steelers smothered them from the get-go. Clearly, we're the tougher, physical team, wanted the game more. And that was impressive. It really was. Like you said, it wasn't like a great offensive showing by Big Ben. But, the one thing is, it took care of the ball for the most part. Was somewhat efficient as far as keeping them in as good a situations as they possibly could. But, this is where Big Ben is at. This is why we're saying goodbye. He's no longer – he's a shell of the guy he once was. And – at one point of his career, he was the ultimate magic maker, the guy who can make things happen in the pocket, people hanging on him, throw the ball still 40 and 50 yards down the field. Yeah, what we've seen here the last year and this year especially, yeah, I mean, look at this sprite chart here. It's a lot of let me find a way to get the ball out of my hand quick, throw the ball accurately into short windows, and it's not all that fun to watch, but it's not all on him either. They don't have the greatest offensive line, but either way, good job by them. The running game dominated, and Big Ben pretty cool. I was really hoping, Mike, that he would get to kneel down at the end of the game and kind of have that last little bit of showman, or that last little bit of the spotlight, I should say, and that was cool too. I wish he would have kneeled the ball and got up and ran around the stadium and gone crazy. He seemed like he was so reserved, he almost didn't know how to react, but still, it was a cool moment to see a legend go out like that.
Yeah, you could tell he didn't know what to do, and
Right.
I was looking to see if anyone was going to give him some guidance. He eventually did that kind of a half victory lap, and then he was still out on the field, and there was a neat moment when his family came down, and you see him walk off into the tunnel with his wife and his 3 kids. That was great, and I haven't seen the pictures of it yet, but there was a cameraman right behind it. There got to be some great images of that final walk-off. And, Najee Harris had 188 rushing yards on 28 attempts, and it felt like he should have had more because there was a sense that Ben was doing what Ben does, where he just changes the plays whenever he feels like. And
or the
what are they gonna
RPOs.
do? Fire him?
Right.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do? But it's his last game. He's done.
Yeah.
He's done.
It did seem like he was going to go out like a Kobe Bryant blaze of glory, where he's just like, I might throw it every play tonight. The hell with it. It did feel like that at one point.
It helped that the Browns were so inept offensively.
Yes.
And, there was this Nick Chubb mystery. Where's he? And there was
What
no
the
injury
hell?
designation provided during the game. And then after the game, the coach says, he had a rib problem. Hey, teams have been fined. And I mean, not significant amounts as it relates to the overall net worth of an NFL franchise, but they've been fined, 5 figures for failing to provide injury updates during games. It's just weird when it happens because it's so commonplace. Guy's got a rib injury. His return is questionable. There's no strategic edge that you sacrifice by making that disclosure during the game, and it is required. It is mandatory. It'll be interesting to see whether or not the Browns get in any sort of trouble with the league office for that.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.
There's no one else who loves me like you used to. Sometimes we're not ourselves. There's no one I can turn to. And I know all the feelings that we shared are in the past. And I know your relationships are never meant to last. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I don't
It is the Worst of the Riot podcast. Happy New Year, everybody.
My goodness, the very first one for 2022.
Yeah, and hopefully this is the worst. Hopefully it gets better from here. You know what I mean?
It's only up?
Yeah, hopefully every podcast after today will be better.
I don't know. What if we're at the ceiling and this is as up as we can go?
As good as it gets. You better enjoy it now.
What else should we do?
This is the high point.
Yeah,
right
enjoy
here.
it while we're here.
Well, what do we have coming up, Isaiah?
So today, one thing that we talked about that I thought sounded just terrible was having to quarantine in a very tight place.
In a toilet, plain bathroom.
Yeah.
I know, and for me, I get a little bit claustrophobic. I think I would lose my mind.
Yeah,
well,
you'd only be able to sit down on the toilet.
I know.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lid, but that's not any better.
No.
Still, yeah. And this is the thing that really bothered me. No windows.
No. Is there a window in a plain bathroom?
I don't think so.
I don't think there
this
is
is
either.
an international bathroom. I can't remember from her TikTok. I'm not sure.
There should be a window in a bathroom. It's not like anybody's going to see you in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
What do you think? Yeah.
It could be worse. There's a ton of, on my For You page for TikToks of people that are quarantined, when they go to a different country.
Yeah.
And they got to spend 10 or 14 days in a hotel.
Oh, yeah.
A ton of those hotels have no windows. And so you spend that whole time.
Oh,
and this
no.
one, I think it was in Japan, this one hotel, they actually put the film over the window to frost it.
Uh-huh.
Even though it was a high rise and no one, why take the view off?
Yeah.
So she was contemplating trying to pull the,
Yeah.
the thing off just so you could, you need a window.
Yeah.
But
Then otherwise you feel like you're
going crazy.
Yeah.
Literally.
You literally get whatever kind of mental issue it is.
And you're getting no fresh air, no nothing.
Yeah,
you
right.
can't open those windows. But in the bathroom, you don't want any air circulation. You're fine.
Yeah, you're doing good. So we talked about that. We also went over our New Year's resolutions and how we all pretty much have the exact same one.
Very similar, isn't it? We basically all want to stop eating fast food, pretty much.
Yeah.
Stop spending money on it.
Yeah, mine isn't even that I want to eat healthier. I don't want to eat the fast food. It's just I just don't want to spend money on the fast food because I know it's
now,
more
what you
expensive.
could do is you could take this and go the next step and then look online and find, how to make your own Chipotle bowl and stuff. So you could make your own mock meals.
Yeah.
But it seems
much of a
you don't
cook,
even want to
Isaiah?
do that.
See,
You're just making bread and meat.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a bad cook, but I also, if I have the opportunity to not put any effort in,
You prefer
then I
that.
would prefer to do
yeah.
that. I like making food and stuff, and I think I can do a decent job at it. But at the same time, if I can just make a sandwich and it's really easy, or if I can just warm something up, I would rather do the convenient route every time.
Learn about our New Year's resolutions, and if you have any good ones, because I feel like I want to branch out. I want there's the A one,
Yeah.
but then a B and C might not be
Yes,
bad.
yes.
Just to have some backup plans.
I
in
was
case
thinking
about
it
that
doesn't
too.
work out. So text your resolutions to 877-2-RADIO-U. We might just take one of yours.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe if they text in some good ones, I'd be like,
Yeah,
oh, well, maybe that's not a bad idea for me, too.
That was one we wanted to do the whole time.
Yeah. So yeah, tomorrow we'll have 7 more new ones.
Yeah,
I haven't
right.
seen all you guys' text.
Perfect.
But we also touched on people are dying their dogs.
They're dyeing the hair of the dogs.
I know. When I said it, I was like, that doesn't really sound right. But I was like, does it sound bad too?
Isaiah, Nikki, I don't know if you were listening, but Nikki she supports the dog hair dyeing, but she doesn't think her dogs could do it. What do you think? Would you
ever dye the
forget
hair on
about
your
the
dog?
practicality of it, but would you ever consider dyeing Jim's hair?
See, I know I could
Jim, your dog.
if I wanted to, because I know that Jim would let me. Because
Yeah.
if I put him in the bathtub,
Yeah.
he just freezes. He doesn't move. He's fine in there.
And if you really needed to, just give him a treat.
Yeah,
He's not
exactly.
gonna
If
go
I give him
anywhere.
any food, he would
Yeah.
just sit there for hours. He does not care. So he doesn't mind being in the bath. I know I could do it. And he's half white, half orange. And so
You could do a good color combo.
I know I could do a good color combo. Would I ever do it though? No, because I think I'd feel bad.
Yeah.
But I also
See, that's what I think too.
It's just a bath to
But
them. They don't know.
But at the same time, too, I also make him look silly all the time. He's been wearing a Santa outfit for a week and a half now. So I really at the
Isaiah,
same
maybe
time.
that's why he pees in your bed.
No, at the
He's
same
tired of you
time,
dressing him.
And I just got him this new thing. It's this little little scarf that he puts on. That it goes. He wears it all the time. It goes around his neck. And it's supposed to, he has big ears because he's a basset hound, and so it holds his ears back. When I put his little hood up, and they're stuck in there, and it's like a little like bear one, so he has like little bear ears instead. And so like he wears it around his neck all the time like a scarf, and so whenever we go outside, because his ears get so wet, I'll like put his little hood on so that it'll hold him back. So I make him look like an idiot pretty much nonstop. So I don't think dyeing his hair it would be really that bad.
One step away from coloring his fur.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't stop now. Keep going.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be against it. Would I take the time to do it? I don't know, but it probably would be hilarious.
Oh, it'd be cute. I love it when it gets down to it, whether it's, not eating out and eating in or dyeing your hairs for your dogs. We're just so lazy. We don't actually want to do anything.
That's a great point.
I'm like, it's a great idea, but it just sounds like a lot of effort.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
Is that it?
That's everything.
That's all the podcast.
That's what the podcast is.
Right.
There's some other things in there too, but those were some of the.
That's the only stuff worth talking about.
Yeah. For now.
Well, enjoy the podcast today. Welcome to the new year. We hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's, and we are super happy to be back.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Catch you next time.
Yeah! You were one of the lucky few who missed the riot when they were live. Yet here you are.
I also like to live dangerously.
This is the Worst of the Riot podcast.
So, are you familiar with Lake Superior State, the university in Michigan?
Maybe. Lake Superior, when you said that, I thought something else.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I know this particular school.
The school is less important, but, I guess they're notable only because at the end, or I'm sure they wouldn't like me to not say only.
They don't like anything you're saying right now.
Yeah, right. They are notable primarily because at the end of every year, they put out a new list of banned phrases and words that you're not supposed to say.
Oh, for the new year.
Trendy things that we need to leave behind. And so they've done this since the 70s. And so now we have their list of stuff that you're not supposed to say as you start a new year in 2022.
Well, now you have more pressure for the first of the year. You didn't know that. You're supposed to diet, work out, and stop saying certain things.
Yeah, so here's what you need to stop saying, and we'll see if, Nikki, if you say any of these.
There's 10 words.
The top of the list is the phrase, wait, what?
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
No, I know quite a few people though that have that
they
in
need
their
to hear
arsenal.
this list.
They need to hear this list.
They need to listen to Lake Superior State University.
They do. They overuse that.
Yeah. Let's see what else wound up on the list. In the past, I have what's on the list in the past, and there are things that I don't even remember. So I guess it's the list is doing a good job. New normal was on the list. That actually was number 8. Why did they not just have the list in the story from 1 to 10?
You don't want to do that.
No, that would be too easy. That would be too much easy
They
work.
say that because we've been doing this now for a few years, the new normal is the normal, and you can't keep saying new normal.
Yeah, that one I can totally get behind. I don't know. I'm with people with the Lake Superior State on that. Here's one. You're on mute.
Oh, yeah, for all the Zoom calls and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. See, that shows how little Zoom calls I did. Because I was thinking like Twitch. Like you've been muted on Twitch or something like that.
No, that's totally a Zoom call. That's a meeting thing.
Supply chain is
still
on there.
Hey, I know we don't want to say that one, but that one's still very relevant.
Oh, I'm tired of it though.
Well, of course you are.
Can we just come up with another phrase for it?
Well, can't we also have our stuff? That's in boats still that we can't because there's a supply chain problem?
I guess we can.
So that one I feel like you might still hear.
Now, where's the middle of the list? Where's the middle of the list? That's what I want to know. We went from 1 to 8 and then 9 and 10, and I don't have the rest of the list in this story.
It's going to bother you.
It is going to bother me.
You're going to have to look it up.
I'm going to be saying the other 7 things I'm not supposed to say.
All right. I am trying to look. It doesn't even look like it's linked in the article.
I know. This is, I don't want to, it's a local news place. And this is why you're not on the bigger news network. This is because you're not giving us the full list here.
Yeah, that's it.
And this is why we're not on a bigger network either.
That we can't because we didn't look them up ahead of time.
That's right.
Well, just realize this. Wait, what is like the main one.
Yeah,
so
you don't want to say
if you know someone who says that, that's the top of the banished word list. That is the one to focus on.
You have any you want to add in?
No, I think the wait what is good.
That's good. That in supply chain, that's good enough for you.
Looks like the second one was no worries. So they say
people say that?
They say that that's dismissive.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to.
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. The Riot, Radio U.
I have good news, Nikki.
Yeah.
Some might think that the pandemic has been all doom and gloom, all bad news, but it has had at least one positive effect that I can think of.
What is it?
And that is that less cars were set on fire in France.
Oh, you just don't know about these things.
Yeah. It is a French tradition, evidently, for New Year's that they set cars on fire. I don't know if it's as much of a real tradition as it's just, something that
families do together.
Yeah, right. You watch the ball drop and then you set some cars on fire.
So, okay, I don't know if you know the answer. So
Yeah.
is this you burn your own car?
Oh,
or
no.
people go on a burning car?
No, it's
walk?
how like in the U.S. and in other countries, if your team loses or wins in a like a championship,
yeah,
sometimes there'll be kind of what do they call it?
You get rowdy.
Yeah, things just get out of hand. There's cars getting tipped over, lit on fire, people dancing in the streets with their shirts off. So that's France for New Year's. They really like to party hard, and part of the partying is setting cars on fire, just not abandoned, but just random parked cars, right, with nobody in them.
So it says that 874 cars were burned this New Year's.
Which feels like a lot.
Yes, that does, doesn't it?
But compared to 2 years ago, to the 2019 New Year's Eve, 1,316 cars were burned. So they dialed it back.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And they chalked that up to the pandemic. And you might be thinking,
oh, you don't want to go out and, go with other people.
Oh, you wouldn't want to catch COVID.
Not from burning the car.
Not from burning the cars, but it's actually not exactly that. It's because they chalk it up to, especially this year, increased police presence as they tried to enforce law and order and restrictions on public gatherings and face masks across the country, due to the pandemic. So isn't that nice that they can mobilize the police force to enforce mask wearing, but not to enforce not setting cars on fire?
I mean, they haven't gotten rid of it completely, so it's still a tradition.
Yeah.
For France and New Year's, it's weird. There's this old show called Top Gear, and it moved into the Grand Tour, and they had a special, and I watched it during Christmas break. And it's about France. It's about how people treat their cars there.
Yeah.
And how people get together and burn and trash cars and they just don't care about their cars.
Yeah.
So I actually think I understand this more.
Yeah, they just don't value.
They don't value cars the same way.
Well.
And so
now it
I
makes
would
sense,
suggest,
right?
I would suggest that special.
Name a famous French car company. You can't. There isn't one.
You can't. And they were just talking about how they usually make more compact cars. They're not like SUVs, and they just drive them until they're dead.
Yeah.
And then they just get
another
gently burned car. But they don't ever put too much into it.
They don't have an appreciation for all that finely tuned machinery.
Well, I didn't know. So in France, for New Year's, they had a less amount of cars burned, but still quite a lot more than you thought people would burn.
I wonder if the tradition of the police being out on New Year's Eve will continue.
Hudson, Nikki, The Riot on Radio U.
Did you see this woman shortly before Christmas is when it actually happened, but then she kind of went viral on TikTok. She was going viral on a plane. The problem was she, while in mid-flight, realized she might have COVID.
Oh, she was the bathroom
The
person.
bathroom woman.
Oh.
Yep. This is, her name is Marie Fortio or something like that. Maris Fortio is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but her name is Maris, and she was on a flight from Chicago to Iceland.
That's only 5 hours?
No, the whole flight is longer, I thought.
Well,
but
she was in the bathroom
But she was
for 5
mid-flight.
hours.
Yeah, she was
Okay.
in the mid-flight. She said she started to get some symptoms where she thought, discomfort in her throat about halfway through the flight. So I guess it's about a 10-hour flight. About halfway through the flight, she had some throat discomfort, and she thought this could be COVID. And so she goes to the bathroom and actually has a rapid COVID test ready to go.
Which, isn't that a shame? Because everybody's been trying to find and just stock up on them.
And she just had them.
She just had one in her bag.
And-
but yet you can't find one.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's fortunate that she did have it, because She runs to the bathroom, takes the test. It turns out positive. And so she had to, I don't know what the airline would have actually told her, but she just said she just holed up in the bathroom for the rest of the flight. She said that's the best she could do.
So that was
They're
her
over the
decision?
Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, I thought the people asked her.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
Well,
she must have made that decision, which is good. She said she stayed in there for the remainder of the flight, which was around 5 hours.
yeah. Well, I don't know. What do you think if you were concerned about what the airline would do, what would you do?
Stay in the bathroom.
Yeah, right? Because that's the safest thing you can do. It's just,
Even though I've watched some of her TikToks on it.
Yeah.
I feel like, and we've not maybe taken this type of international flight, that bathroom seems a tiny bit bigger than the normal
doesn't it?
bathrooms we
Yeah,
have.
right?
It's like you look at it, you're like, that's not a bathroom on a plane, is
Yeah.
it? But it is for international.
Yeah, I just kept thinking, and I know there had to be more than one bathroom on the plane, but I just kept
Yeah.
thinking, what if there was a line?
Oh.
You know, especially if somebody went in, was waiting, like they saw her and they're like, I'm gonna go next, and then you know how you do on a plane, you just keep waiting for the person to come out.
Yeah.
And she never comes out.
Well, I
and
think-
you're like really holding it. It's like, I can't make it all the way to Iceland.
She must have told people. And actually, it's not the worst idea because I think there was more room in there than your seat
I
area.
know.
So
They
outside of the fact that you have to quarantine in there.
They said, or she said that she was able to connect with a flight attendant.
So she got food and drinks.
Yeah, so the flight attendant took care of her in there, gave her some food and drinks. But yeah, I guess that actually is not a bad idea. If you want to like have a luxury plane trip, you quarantine in the bathroom. You don't have to have COVID. It's just like, sorry, I'm not feeling really well.
What you need to do though is, and it's not a joking matter, but what if you just made it seem like you had it and then you quarantine near the first class bathroom?
I can tell you why. Because like she did, you'd have to quarantine wherever you land as well.
Oh, you still most of the time need to anyways.
Yeah,
But
so
then you could just be like, it was a false positive.
She had to stay in the Red Cross in a Red Cross hotel.
She had to isolate there.
Where she had to isolate in Iceland, isolating in Iceland. And she actually was supposed to go on to Switzerland to meet her family there and wasn't able to.
Aw, well, at least she stayed safe, and that was
stayed
important.
safe, and she, it seems, did the best she could to not infect anybody else with COVID.
The Riot Podcast. Radio View.
There was just so much football, so much sports going on over the past few days. It was very exciting to watch. But when there's a story that even people that aren't that interested in football are talking about, it's either something really big, really good, or really bad. And I think in this case, it would be really bad.
I think so too.
Antonio Brown, the wide receiver, he was for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and a pretty good one. And
but he
yesterday,
has had problems, right?
he has had issues in the past. The Bucs rescued him after he was previously kind of kicked out of the league.
Yeah.
He had a lot of issues with the Oakland Raiders at a time when he was with them, I believe, or was it the Steelers? I don't even remember. He's been around the league and had issues with multiple teams. And so his issue yesterday was he was the guy that was out there at the Bucs-Jets game. They told, evidently, he got into an argument with the coach. The coach told him to go in the game.
Yeah.
He didn't want to. He refused.
He didn't want to play?
He didn't want to play. He didn't want to get on the field. And so that eventually led to him stripping out of his uniform, taking off his jersey, taking off his shoulder pads, taking off his gloves, throwing them into the stands.
Somehow riling up, like getting the crowd.
Yeah, right.
He keeps going like, hey, as he makes his way out of the field.
Yep, and
he just leaves.
Yeah, he just walks off the field mid-game. And they said after the game, the Buccaneers have said that he is no longer a member of the team. I don't know if that was if that's kind of a you can't fire me, I quit situation or what. I mean, you're not going to cut him mid-game, but he quit mid-game. So
when I watched it, and then like everybody's response, because after the game they were like, he's not a part of the Bucs and all that stuff, like he's not a part of the team anymore. I wasn't sure if, and maybe I feel like with Antonio Brown, there there was even more behind the scenes stuff. And
Oh,
they were
there has
probably
to be.
always mad at him.
Yeah.
And then I bet you if I was the coach, I'd be like, he's taking his shirt off. All right, he's out.
Yeah, right.
they'd be
Like, they've just been
excited, but
waiting.
They waiting for a big enough meltdown from him to be able to cut him from the team.
If you remember, he had just been suspended 3 games.
Oh,
He
I
had
didn't
just
know
recently
that.
come back. It was like a couple weeks ago. And that was because he was a guy who had a fake COVID vaccine card and was like distributing them to other members of the team as well.
Oh, that was
so
him.
that's him as well. So there's been stuff going on with him for some reason, and I do believe this is the reason that the Bucs have put up with him for so long. I mean, he is pretty good. He's maybe not as good as he's always been, but like he's not in his prime anymore, but still very good. One of the best receivers in the league. So there, you're going to put up with him for that, but also that Tom Brady really likes him. Like Tom Brady is friends with Antonio Brown and has stuck up for him so many times because he really likes playing with him. But it's hard to stick up for. I don't think Tom Brady is the kind of guy that's going to be fine with somebody quitting mid-game.
Sure.
So that doesn't seem like something that would fly in the Tom Brady world.
Well, I'm sure there'll be more about the Antonio Brown situation, but
Yeah.
he's not a part of the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And it is weird when you see someone. It doesn't look like a meltdown when he's doing it.
Yeah.
But to know like he doesn't want to play and he's leaving the field,
Yeah.
that is a meltdown.
Uh-huh.
And that's a temper tantrum.
Yeah. I mean, in football, it's just weird because you see arguments, you see fights between teammates on the sidelines and players and coaches and whatever.
But you still play.
But yeah, you still, at your job, you might expect every so often to see somebody that's just like, fine, I'm quitting in the middle of the workday. It's for some reason, it's very rare in football, but it actually happened on
In radio,
Sunday.
it'd be like if we threw our headphones down
In the
and
middle
walked
of the show,
out,
yeah.
just walked out the building.
Everything you love about the riot, plus a handy dandy fast forward option. This is the Worst of the Riot podcast.
Let us know what your New Year's resolution will be, if any.
Well, that way, if you haven't decided on one, but you really wanted one,
Uh-huh.
maybe a last minute idea will come in.
Yeah. Or you let us know what you're doing and we'll be a support system for you.
Yeah, we'll
or
help ya.
more likely, we will make it very difficult for you because, I know a popular one is going to lose some weight, going to get on a diet and maybe even work out. And that's not something that we're very good at supporting. As great as an idea as it is, it's not something that we really encourage just because we love talking about food so much.
It helps us to know because studies have shown that if you pick like a food related New Year's resolution, you'll last till, what do they normally say? Like it's 2 weeks? Or,
like January 14th.
Yeah, it's like till the 17th or like the 19th. And then if you're making like dry you wear, you might last longer.
Yeah.
Or if you might do like more sleep or something. So there's different points in January that are normally the markers.
Yeah.
And how long will you make depending on what your resolution is.
So, do any of us have resolutions going?
I do. Mine is I want to eat out less. I want to eat out less. I don't want to go out for lunch anymore because before I was going out to eat for lunch.
You want it delivered?
Every single day I was going to Chipotle, and then I added up how much money I was spending at Chipotle, and it was just an ungodly amount. Like giving Chipotle that much money just seemed wrong.
They're
Like,
sad to hear this.
yes, exactly. They're like, Isaiah, we love you at Chipotle. Keep coming back.
He was going every day.
Every day. So now I'm going to pack my lunch more. And my goal is I want to eat out 3 times or less a week.
Okay.
That seems pretty good, right?
That's good. I think that's
3 times or less.
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty reasonable.
Would say like, oh, I'm never going to eat out again. And that does not last.
Oh,
You
no.
have to give yourself a little bit.
Because I know on the weekends I'm going to eat out at least once on Saturday and at least once on Sunday. And that leaves like one time during the week where, because I'm going to pack my lunch every day for like lunch, but one time a week for dinner that I can eat out as well.
So did you pack your lunch today?
I did. I have food here that I'm going to eat.
What did you bring?
I have ham.
Ham?
Mm-hmm.
That's it? Just ham?
No, I have ham and I have bread, and that's what I'm going to eat.
That's a sandwich.
Yeah, I have a ham sandwich. That's what I have for lunch today.
Did you bring anything else?
Nope,
Like
that's it.
one ham sandwich?
That's it. I mean,
or-
I have a loaf of bread in there. I think it's either ham or turkey that I have in the fridge. And
so
that's
you
what
can
I'm
make
gonna,
that each
Yeah,
day.
I'm just going to make that every day.
All right.
Well, you need
Well-
more than just a sandwich.
Well, I'm only, no, I don't, because I can leave. I get off early, so I can leave and go home, make myself more food. But I just need something to tie me over until I get home.
Yeah. What did you bring for breakfast?
Oh, I just have like a protein shake and I just ate a granola bar.
It's not enough.
You're good.
And my energy drink, I drank that too. So I'm feeling pretty full right now.
I love it. You're like, what's the goal for this new you? I'd like to make a ham sandwich
Yeah.
every day.
Every day I'm just going to make a ham sandwich.
Well, what's yours, Nikki? Do you have any?
I would like to stop having my second dinner in the evening.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Because you're even like during Christmas break, and Eric wasn't a help either. You're like, yeah, you want to go get something to eat? You're like,
Yeah.
"We have dinner. And you're like, well, what's a later dinner?
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to do that.
That's the big one in my house as well.
So eating out less also, it seems like to be the
Yeah.
new one.
I've made some rules, and these are things that initially I remember making, I don't know, after a vacation like earlier this year, or last year, I guess I should say. But now I'm sticking to it. And my wife is on board as well, where, because just like when you're married or when you're living with somebody, even if you have a great plan of like, I'm not going to do this, when the other person, like, you just feed off of each other. And so my wife and I are both in the new year. We're having a competition. So that's how it's going to really be something where we're all going to stick to what we're doing, where we're not going to eat out as much.
So is that everybody's thing? We just don't want to eat
I think so.
out?
I think we all want to.
Is that what it is? Like, is that what your New Year's resolution is? It's like not eating out less? Okay.
It's to lose weight.
Okay.
Which, is that a resolution? Does
And
that
save
count?
money.
Yeah.
Save
money, lose
Yep,
weight, yeah.
Yeah. Not work out.
No.
I don't think I'm going to do that.
No.
But definitely with the
Let me get the calendar. Let's pick the date we think we can last till.
I love it. I think if you can
that,
make it through January, I think you'll make it. I think you can do it.
You can. You have a loaf of bread in there.
Yeah, exactly. I can make it at least a week or two.
All of our, in a way, are very vague, our resolutions as well. So that should make it easier to stick to them as well. You just write on. No, that wasn't included.
That doesn't count.
Isaiah, you're specific 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But that's still pretty generous, I feel, of.
Hey, that's good for me. I was
mean, if
eating
it's
like 9
cutting
or
back,
10
it's
before.
cutting back. It's but for Nikki, as a second dinner, and for me, just like not generally not eating out, and we'll see how the.
Hudson's was the vaguest by far.
Yeah,
I didn't even know what it was. Like when you
my
were
plan.
talking, you was like, it's just kind of like we're doing it together, and it's a competition. And I was like, well, what are you doing?
So yes, I'm going to lose weight by any means necessary except working out.
Nice.
So that I can beat my wife.
That sounds bad.
Yeah, it does sound
bad. I
know. Well, all right. Does anybody have any non-food or money for food spending related resolutions? Feel free to text at 8772 Radio U, and that way we can all help each other on our resolutions to being the best that we can be.
Yeah.
And all the New Year's stuff you're supposed to say to yourself.
A happier, healthier 2022.
There it is.
The worst podcast with the best listeners. This is the Worst of the Riot Podcast.
How are we feeling about 2022?
So far, I guess, when you're 3 days in, pretty good.
It hasn't been so bad so far, right?
Even though for a lot of us, today's like the first real day
this
to
is the
experience
test.
it. This is going to be the hardest.
Well, I have a poll here about how people are feeling heading into 2022. And it turns out that people are actually more fearful and less optimistic about 2022, like to start the year, than they were about 2021 when we started 2021. So 1 year ago, we were feeling like, hey, 2021 is going to be a great year. At least more so than we feel 2022 is going to be a great year.
I think now we're just more comfortable in knowing that it's all bad anyways.
Yeah.
So what are we going to get?
This is an Axios poll that they do every year. So they say that in 2021, when we were going into that year, it's not that we're more fearful and less optimistic this year. It's not that we are. It's not that is bizarre compared to other years. It's the 2021 starting last year was the bizarre year because I guess with COVID ending and stuff like that, we thought we are so
And then it wasn't.
we are abnormally optimistic starting last year.
Sure.
According to the survey, where now this year we're going back to normal. Back to the normal amount of optimism, which is not that much.
Well, I guess I can't really remember 100%, but I feel like I remember last Christmas it was all it was bad at Christmas, but then it'll be better right after because we just can't get together as like family and friends.
If you remember, at that time last year, we were just getting the vaccine. So I think a lot of people that was the end to them of the pandemic is over. We missed out on a lot of stuff, but now we get to have a fun year again.
Well, and then going into this Christmas, if you watch anything with news or if you stay, on top of it, I feel like we've just been hit with so much negative stuff that they could have done a little better job.
Yeah.
And maybe throwing in some positive stuff. So I feel like everybody's probably more down than just coming off of all that.
Yeah. When you're looking at the actual numbers, they say 54% of people surveyed said they are more fearful than hopeful for what's to come in 2022.
Well,
44% was the opposite.
I also feel like this is not our style because if anybody came up to me to ask me about a survey, I would automatically be distrusting.
You would?
Just nervous because I just don't do those.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe we're more positive, but the study just shows more negative.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that too because they also say another thing was 51% specific to the U.S. say they think the U.S. will be more like going downhill. They're more fearful than hopeful for how things are going to be in the U.S. And I think to myself, like for the U.S. and the world as a whole, if you're asking me how things are going to be, I don't think things are going to get greatly better. Like, I don't know. I just don't. I guess you could call me pessimistic, but I just don't
Yes, Mr. Pessimistic.
Yeah, I just don't think that the trajectory doesn't really feel great. I don't remember a time where I've been like, things are getting better across the world. Things just seem to be getting globally better. But that doesn't mean that I don't think, like, day to day, I don't think I'm pessimistic. You know what I mean? I think
gotcha.
For my life, I think things will be fine. I think for people's, for people's lives in general, people are going to be fine. It's just, is the world going in a great direction in the next year? I don't know.
Well, I don't think it's dumpster fire like, but
no.
I feel like
it's just always something though. And it's always like that.
With your resolutions, maybe a good one is to be more positive.
Yeah. Whether it's day to day or big picture.
No, I don't even look at big picture.
You don't
anymore.
even want to look at the big
picture. Don't even look at big
No.
picture. Close your eyes.
You can't be pessimistic if you don't think about it.
If there's nothing to look at, just work on the day-to-day small things that are more manageable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, find the little joy.
Why pay for so many streaming services that you don't really care about when you can not really care about the Riot for free? Radio U.
Have you seen anyone on TikTok dyeing their dog?
Like different colors?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no, but I haven't noticed it being like a trend.
It's not a trend for you?
Not that I've seen.
But you've seen at least somebody do it.
Well, yeah.
Does it
I've seen people in real life do it.
Does it tempt you?
It would be Rollo if I did, and he just barely can handle someone.
If you did?
Listen.
It sounds like you're considering it.
Okay. Rollo can barely get his hair brushed. So I can't imagine him sitting at the salon for a doggy hair dye thing.
Oh, I was thinking just you doing it at home.
No. Oh, gosh, no. But I've seen amazing ones. Like they make them look like, I don't know, like cheetahs or like panda bears and stuff. So I've seen plenty of people doing that for their dogs.
Well, we have a woman here. Her name is Issa Beastly, it looks like. I don't know if that's her real name, but she's on TikTok, and she attempted to dye her dog at home. She had seen it going around.
Color.
And it did not go well in multiple ways. One, the dog, she wanted to dye it red. So she tried mixing orange and pink dye for the dog. And I mean, you can see, Nikki.
It's just orange.
That's just, well, if you look at, it's orange. And then if you look at the back of the dog, like you look at different angles.
It's pink on the other side.
It did not mix. And it does not look good. I'm sorry to say for that dog.
Her biggest concern also was not only for dyeing the dog's hair, but I guess in her apartment.
Yeah, that's the other issue because the dog obviously did not stay still, did not wait. I know I've never dyed my hair, but my wife has and stuff. Like you have to just keep that under control, or it will dye other things.
It'll get away from you.
You got to be careful with it. And so with a dog, it's not surprising if you're doing it at home. That dog is not going to sit still in the bathtub or wherever it may be long enough to let that dye set before it can get on everything. And so, yeah, the bathroom the walls. You can just see the entire wall. There's like the smudges of the dye all around to the same level where the dog was.
It looks like if someone was murdered, that was orange and pink.
If Gritty was killed.
It'd be worth it if it looked better, but I don't think the dog looks very good. So not only you have that, it didn't work out, and you're in trouble then with your deposit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the best for her.
See, so that now you don't seem concerned about the dog and the whole thing. Like, besides that the dog doesn't look good,
you can totally dye your dog's hair.
I know you can,
Yeah,
but
you can.
should you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Why? You know what? Maybe your dog wants it. Your dog would like to. It just has no way to tell you.
Yeah.
Because I used to do.
Well, I guess you could say you could do that for anything for a dog.
That's true. The dog really wants me to buy a car today.
Yeah, right.
It wants a new car. Like for my dog, we used to have a mohawk shaved on top of his head. And I always thought, I asked one time if they could color that part.
Yeah.
And then they were like, no, he couldn't sit for it. So I was turned down.
Well, some people are concerned.
Just do it at home.
About well, I you should try it.
Yeah, one day.
I would never do. Like I don't make my dog wear clothes. My dog is black, so dyeing would probably not go well for. Just add that to the reasons why it wouldn't go well.
Sure.
But I don't want to do stuff to my dog. She's happy. She's just happy barking and lying around the house.
Can you please change your thinking? It's doing things with your dog, not to your dog.
Or for my dog.
For your
yeah,
dog.
No. I think she's just. I think she is pretty good at conveying what she wants.
And she doesn't
She
want
wants
that.
to bark at things, and she wants me to give her like cheeseburgers.
Well, Rollo,
that's what she wants.
Now that Hudson's brought this up, Rollo, just to let you know, I'm going to look on Amazon to see about doggy hair dye. And he already has a couple of hoodies, so he already has clothes.
And you don't rent, so you don't have to worry about your deposit.
So
yeah,
I'll just try it maybe outside.
you can ruin your house. It's fine.
I'm not ruining. I'm making my dog's life better. All right.
And dyeing your bathroom as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's due for a paint job.
If they keep talking long enough, they're bound to say something that you agree with. The Riot with Hudson and Nikki on Radio U.
Over the weekend, we have determined who will be playing in the College Football National Championship game, which is coming up next Monday, right?
Yes.
1 week from today. It will be Alabama and Georgia.
Does everybody go with that, or we
No,
don't like that?
not at all. I feel that that is just not exciting.
Oh, sure.
I want to be.
You want something new?
I do, and especially the hopes.
Fresh and exciting.
The hopes were high when Michigan and Cincinnati make it in. It's like, hey, maybe we'll get something a little different. And no, it's just two
Alabama.
SEC teams again. Always Alabama. But what I feel that I should be appreciative, like what Alabama does. Eventually, I grew with the New England Patriots, with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in the NFL, to appreciate them. Even though I wasn't big fans initially, you just have to appreciate it because just nobody does what they do. Nobody did what they did for so long, win so much. Same thing with Alabama. It's just I want to grow to appreciate Nick Saban and appreciate Alabama because they just win so much. It's just not done.
Yeah, but
they're just so dominant, but I can't bring myself to do it. It's just boring to me.
I don't know if you feel the same way, Isaiah, but like that's fine for like a game. But if it's a bowl game and this is like the main thing you've been looking forward to, it would be nice if they're not always the same.
Right.
It's frustrating too because I understand that like obviously if you want to be different then just beat them. Like everyone's like put Cincinnati in there. We need something different, and then they just get They still have to win the game, and it's just upsetting because it's Alabama, Georgia. Obviously, people would say it's Ohio State and Clemson and these teams that are always in it. But if you want it to be different, then you just have to beat them, and nobody can beat them. And that's just how it is every year.
But
you can't beat Alabama, you can't beat Georgia, you can't beat Clemson, you can't beat Ohio State. And then these smaller schools like Cincinnati and all the smaller ones, they're like, well, this isn't fair. These same teams are in every year. Well, if you want to be different, then you just got to beat them.
It's good that Cincinnati at least got a shot this year, but you're totally right. It's just that's why I feel like I have to appreciate Alabama because everybody's just trying to beat them, and somehow like the rules are the same for everybody, pretty much. And Alabama still somehow winds up winning. I mean, Alabama gets invited to the party more.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's because like they're dessert. Because every year when they're on the fringe of being invited to the party and they do well, then it's like, well, I guess you just have to invite them because they're going to win every time.
Well, was there any bowl games leading up to this matchup or anything that was good or unexpected?
Ohio State won.
Well,
we had a great game on Saturday. If anybody saw, Jackson Smith and Jigba broke the record for the most receiving yards in a single bowl game. He had 357 yards. And you just couldn't stop him.
So
there was no way to stop him.
I didn't watch it, but basically the first half was like awful,
Yeah.
and then they rallied
And
in
then
the locker room.
It
and
was
came
incredible.
Back.
It was incredible. We literally they couldn't stop him. It was. I've never seen such a dominant performance by a wide receiver ever. I mean, he had 357 yards by himself. So it was pretty crazy. Quite the comeback. Utah put up a great game. They had a kick return touchdown. They looked really solid. And then Ohio State just came storming back and made by Saturday much better.
I also saw that, I saw that there was a lot of important or exciting games. And I just, I hate to say it, but I didn't get to watch a lot of it. Because I was so busy with family and not as big. I didn't get to watch even as my family big hockey fans as we are, being from Canada. Didn't get to watch the outdoor NHL Winter Classic either, so I just missed out on everything.
Oh, I love that.
Unfortunately, they left in time for me to watch NFL yesterday.
That's the big one.
I said, you guys, you got to be out of here by 1 p.m. on Sunday because I'm not missing NFL.
I like how you're like, I appreciate having family, but please, could you leave?
Yeah, please, could you get out of here, please?
Well, I guess then we have the national championship to look forward to, and that's on next Monday.
Yeah.
But it's just, is it exciting enough to stay up? I mean, that's a work day, guys. It's hard for us to do that.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's just like
Isaiah's gonna stay up and watch it.
I'll watch it.
You will.
I'll watch it. I mean, I'll probably watch it just because I want to see if Georgia can win. I'm pulling for Georgia to win just because they haven't won like the national championship and the college football playoff yet, where Alabama has had a couple. So.
Well, that means we don't have to all stay up. So
yeah,
you can watch it. I already feel like I already know Alabama's going to win, and that's a credit to them. Like they're impressive. So I don't feel like I need to watch. So
Hudson's boycotting the national championship. Here we are. I knew it would come to this. We all knew it would come to this.
He's just in a negative mood today.
Yes.
I wish Ohio State was in it so I could watch and cheer against them.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Saying that.
Enough, okay? Enough.
At least that'd be interesting. Alabama, I don't even want to watch.
Hudson, it's a new year. Let's have a new attitude,
yeah,
okay?
Positive
Could you bring
Ohio
something
State
a little
vibes.
bit nicer
Positive.
in?
Oh, I don't have.
He doesn't have it in him.
No, I don't. You can't change a tiger stripes.
That's fine.
If you missed out on the next Riot moment when it originally aired, you don't know how lucky you are. You're listening to the Worst of the Riot podcast.
Starbucks has a new trick that they are testing out that may be making its way to a Starbucks near you sometime soon. Tell me how you feel about the idea of coffee popping pearls.
I would love it.
Yeah?
I love boba.
Uh-huh.
So basically this is popping pearls is like boba, but they kind of burst. And with this, it'd be like coffee ones.
Yeah.
So I'd be all
says
for this.
The pearls are filled with Starbucks coffee. And so if you were lucky enough to be near one of the locations where they are testing it, you can get those added into, I mean, it looks like your iced drinks, right? So tell me about these pearls.
Yeah.
Do you imagine?
Have you ever had boba?
I've never had, but that does not appeal to me whatsoever.
You know, I didn't think so. Yeah. I don't think you're the market.
No, definitely not.
You're not the target. And that's fine. It doesn't mean you wouldn't maybe enjoy it if you tried it.
Yeah.
But they're basically like boba's like tapioca, like chewy little balls that go in the bottom of the drink.
Yeah, that's why I don't think I like tapioca.
You wouldn't like it.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to try it.
And for these are more like they're just like bursting ones.
Yeah.
And they could be more like a jelly sort of thing or have like fruit flavors. But this would be coffee.
But so here's what I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
If you put them in hot coffee, would they melt and just mix in?
You know, I've only had it with cold. It just always comes in that sort of drink.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to that. I don't think they would melt, but I don't think it's usually done that way.
Also, with the pearls, like, do you need a straw? Like,
yeah, you need a big straw.
Because in the picture, it doesn't even show a straw because it's Starbucks.
No, you need, well, for them, okay, the Starbucks little popping pearls.
Yeah.
They seem a little small.
Yeah, they do look tiny, right?
Those are tinier because like Dunkin', they've been testing popping boba for a while.
Oh, yeah?
So those are bigger. You get like a really thick, big straw.
Okay.
And then you suck them all up and you feel like you're going to choke on them. And that's just part of the fun.
That's all part of the experience,
You're paying
eh?
for the experience. But these look a lot smaller than normal, like, pearls. But they're calling them pearls because it's not like the size of boba.
Yeah. Well, I think I would think as well that boba, like it would be associated with the tapioca thing, right?
Yeah, it's the same.
And so you wouldn't want...
These just burst.
You want people to know these are coffee, they're not tapioca.
Yeah, they're pearls.
So that for me, I will be interested because I am interested. I just would want to try it in a hot drink unless, again, that would melt them and it just mix in and then that would be boring.
It's usually cold drinks. There's 2 new drinks in the dark.
Uh-huh.
It's their mysterious.
Yeah, that is
popping
that's
pearl one.
Vague, isn't it?
And then they have an iced chai tea latte with coffee pearls. So that's the 2 drinks that they're testing in Palm Desert and Bellevue and Washington. So if you're in those 2 areas for California or Washington, you can possibly try one of their new boba. Well, it's not boba.
No.
It's
popping pearls. Yeah. Well, I'm intrigued if this ever makes it national. I'll definitely give it a shot. I'll finally get to initiate into the popping pearl world.
Well, try boba first, though.
No, I don't like tapioca. Do they make other flavors?
No, it's made out of tapioca.
Yeah, so I don't think I would like that.
Okay, in your mind, if you're thinking it's like tapioca pudding, it's not like that.
I know, but it's still
What
tapioca
is it?
something.
It is, okay. You know what? Just one day, just open your heart and let it in if you happen to be near a boba place.
No, I feel like Isaiah right now. Haven't had it.
Don't want to try
Hated it. Yeah.
You just heard the worst of the worst. We'd give you the best of the best, but we'd have to find that. As soon as we do, you'll be the first to know.